I can't pronounce your name. Alexandra,
It's
Maia.
okay. I'll play it for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Alexandra Maia, yeah. No,
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
thank you for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'm excited. I'm excited to
Yeah.
talk to you.
Yeah, you too. Because I first saw you on that Tea with Gary V,
Okay.
and I was like, gosh, you got like so much like positive energy and drive and like momentum, and
I was
I've
so
never like,
nervous. I was quite, actually, no, I have been more nervous. I was actually a little bit more relaxed because I had waited 4 weeks. So I
oh
had
wow, yeah,
already, yeah, so I had already relaxed a little bit. I think if I had done that video with Gary the day after I knew I was going to be on the show, I think I would have just been even more nervous. But because I waited 4 weeks, I was like calmer.
mm. You kind of like build up to it and kind of prepare yourself probably more.
Yeah. So I really had the time to then relax a little bit more. So I was definitely more, but for me it was just a little overwhelming because he's been a mentor for me for 6 years, and then you only have a limited time, and you want to say so much so you don't miss, but at the same time you don't want to overwhelm the person, or you don't want to be going on for a long time. So it's
Yeah,
definitely like a kind of a bit of a nerve-wracking sort of like experience.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I can imagine. I think like what you like you said, over that time of 6 years, you're trying to compact everything over that time into like a short kind of bit of time.
Yeah, because you like in your head you develop an emotional relationship with this person. You know, when
Mm,
you have a mentor or someone that you follow and you take advice from, you develop your own relationship with them. So for me, it's like, and I'm so grateful that it happened now, because the advice that he gave me now would
mm,
definitely not have been the same if this was like 4 years ago. So I think I really believe in the timing of things. So I'm really grateful that it came at this time,
yeah.
and it happened now. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think it's great, what you're doing and, what you said and everything. I think it's really, really good. And like what you do in your work, it's like business consulting, is it? And like branding and marketing and help
Yeah,
people.
I essentially help small, medium-sized businesses, companies, individuals, for example, like yourself, even entrepreneurs that want to launch a business or want to take their business to the next level, and they want to leverage social media marketing from it. So I can really help you out about how to leverage social media marketing, and also help you with your whole sort of business framework. So how to go about it, how to grow it, how to scale it, where to start. So I work with a variety of different types of clients. I've got clients that are like bigger clients, and then I've got a lot of small, medium-sized businesses, and then I have a lot of entrepreneurs that are building their own personal brands so they can really do what they love, like yourself, like from life coaching
Mm,
to there's like all sorts, like social media experts, or so it's a huge variety of different types of people, but with the ultimate
mm,
goal of they want to grow, they want to scale, and they really want to try to make a living out of what makes them happy. So that's
yeah.
essentially what I do. Yeah. And I really help them with the framework, with the strategy, with the creative ideas. So there's a lot of practical advice. There's a lot of practicality when I work together with clients. So, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it?
Mm,
Thinking as well. So, mapping things out for the next month, for the next 2 months. So yeah, and I work very closely with them, which allows me to understand the person and the human that I have in front of me, so that the strategies that I am giving this person really fit this person's energy, circumstances, budget, because that's really important.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think like what you said, you're not just kind of like sticking to like one sector of kind of clientele. You kind of like, like I said, entrepreneurs, small businesses, maybe a bit more bigger businesses, probably like people in like the corporate sector as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah. Yeah, in my first year, I had a lot of agencies and I had a lot of corporates because I was known here in Dubai because I always worked in agencies. So that industry knew me. So then in the
Mm,
beginning, it was like, oh, you know, Alex is now independent. So let's like, you know, let's work with her now. And then as the market evolved here in Dubai and there's being even more small, medium-sized businesses, I've attracted a lot of small, medium-sized businesses. So it's just, you know, it's that concept of, you know, you're the honey and the bees kind of come to you. So then you kind of, you know, you kind of see who comes to you, and then that's really interesting, and you kind of then lean in into those pockets of different target audiences.
yeah.
And I think it's important to also stick to working with who you get more pleasure from. And I definitely get a lot of pleasure from working with entrepreneurs and small medium-sized businesses because they come with so much passion. You know, it's
Mm,
the passion that's very different from when I work with a company and an organization. It's just very different dynamics.
mm. I suppose it's interesting to see, like you said, the different dynamics and the different ways of working with people. Because I suppose it's just, they're not like each day must be so different for you because you work with so many different people.
Yeah, so I'll have like a session where, like, I just had a session now with an amazing, you know, young girl, and
Mm,
she lost her job during COVID, right? Which,
mm,
you know, many people did, but that actually propelled her to start her own thing. So now
mm,
she's finding herself 2 months in being a freelancer and having clients back in her home country. So, you know, you're talking to a 25-year-old girl who has just gone through, you know, lost her job, but really, you know, went all in into, you know what, I'm going to try and do this as a freelancer. And now she's uncovered like all these opportunities that she didn't know she had. And so the conversation is extremely different from, you know, maybe another client that I'll have tomorrow, which is a government client, and the
mm,
conversations are very different. So yeah, it's all about, I really believe business is a people's business. You are dealing with people. You have to read their energy, get to know them, feel them out, because at the end of the day, it's all humans that we're working with. And
mm.
yeah, I really, really believe business is business in 2020, and it really is about the business of people, how to deal with
Mm.
people, how to work with them, how to talk to them, how to navigate around them. I think that's a skill that people need to learn and needs to evolve more in. And I even think in schools, like I think in school there should be something in the curriculum around, you know, stuff like this, because dealing with people can be really
Yeah.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know, I definitely agree. Like I think business is like you said, you've got to understand people, you've got to understand yourself, haven't you? You've got to like people because I think if you know if you don't like people and you can't relate to them, then you know it's going to be probably very hard for people to get by. And I think
Yeah.
that kind of old business, like corporate, is it 1970s, 80s approach is a bit outdated now. It still operates in some businesses, doesn't it? But
Yeah. Yeah. No, true. Like you have to, I think it's that empathy thing, right? You got to come from a place of empathy, I
mm,
think a place of kindness. You know, business is business, and not to get too emotional about things. Like, you know, I'm not going to be emotional if my client doesn't take my advice. That's just how it is. Um, you know, yeah, it's hard because a lot of people can take things very personally. A lot of people can take things too hard. You know, you really have to draw the lines into what you
mm,
don't take personal. You know, I always think like you can be high energy but low investment. So, you know, sometimes with clients, you don't necessarily have to like a client, right? I don't really have to really love a client or like a client,
mm.
but I certainly want to respect them and I want to have high energy for the work we're doing. But I can be a lower investment on the emotional side.
Mm.
Um, yeah, yeah.
It's finding that like common ground, I suppose, isn't it? And both kind of working to like the same objective because it's like if you've got a client, you're advising them, they've got to kind of take on board what you're saying, and because I
Yeah, I mean,
suppose,
ideally, you want to hope they do because they're going to be paying you for it. So,
yeah, yeah,
you know, but at the end of the day, like, I'm such a fan of people, you know what, and I always say this sometimes when I'm having harder discussions around certain strategies and tactics. Like I'm at the end of the day, I'm such a fan of like, if you don't want to take my advice and you want to go and try your own road, I'm also such a fan of that. You know, you want to go on that journey by yourself and learn it. I really even think that's sometimes the best. But if you come to me and you want to hear my 2 cents on it, of course, I'm going to give you my 2 cents based on my experience of everything that I've learned that works. You want to take it? Like, cool. You don't, I will not. I don't usually spend too much time convincing anybody. It's interesting. I did have that last week with a client where it was exactly this we were talking about. And I did say, you know, I was pretty clear about how not going to work. And sometimes I'm just very straightforward, and that's
Yeah.
just sometimes my style. And I said, look, I can 100% almost tell you, like, it's just not going to work. You're not going to sell the way you think you're selling. I think you're going to really waste a lot of time and energy, where I think if you put that time and energy on a different strategy, you're going to get what you want. And you know, and it was still like, no, you know, but I still want to do it. And I'm like, that's fine. That's totally cool. You know, at the end of the day, you came to me to ask my 2 cents. There they are. If you still want to go off and do your own thing, I'm never fascinated by the business of having to try to convince people. I think it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Oh, that's totally cool.
Yeah.
Go off in your journey, and I'm happy for them. Like, I'll be happy for you. Like, by all means, you know, like it's just like when you watch my clip with Gary, it's exactly that. When he said to me, you know, you could give your whole online academy for free, and you could give your content for free, and how you're going to have so much more opportunity. Like, that's huge. That's a huge thing to do. And at the end of the day, obviously, it's up to me to decide if I want to do it or not. But if I'm coming to him for advice, it must be for a reason. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like, that's just like, because it's funny. Like, I had a lot of people that DM me after, and it's so interesting because I had so many people DMing me, and they were like, well, like, what do you think? Like, what do you think about what he said? Because that's like so insane. And, you know, like, you know, it's really interesting. And it's like, and I was like, yeah, I mean, for me, I trust, because I've seen it that it works. So for me, I trust that advice. At the end of the day, I think we have to do what we feel inside and listen to our instinct. And yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think you're completely right. I think you have to listen to what's right for you,
Yeah,
and you know, it's up to you whether you take that advice or not, and what you do with it.
yeah. And
And
I think instinct is a strategy, and we don't seem to look at it like a strategy because we grow up to like, oh, you know, strategy, it's like business and it has to be like this very serious thing. But your gut instinct is it's a huge strategy to follow your gut instinct. Most of the times it's actually right.
yeah. It's I think it's like I said, it's tuning into that and knowing it, and it's like you have to know yourself, don't you, or get to know that part of you, you know, and have that, you know, when you get other people's opinions on it, you get that clarity to it. So you must have had like clarity from that.
I think it's terrible. I think we should ask like 1 or 2 people that we trust, and then that's it. Like, I think once you start like asking too many, of course you're going to get different opinions, because everybody's going to have a bias. Everybody's going to have a point of view of where they're coming from with their opinion. And I mean, for me, I really like, my mom for me is my soundboard. Actually, I am very obsessed about just following my instinct, and my whole life I've always just been like that. It's like, I feel I want to do something, like I do it. Like, and even when my mom is like, that's crazy, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it. And it's always kind of played out okay, even though it's been quite insane, but has always played out well in some way or another. Like, I remember when I was super lost in my life, and I was like, you know what, let's just cross the Sahara Desert for like 3 months. And my mom was like, no. And I'm like, yes. And it was like me and my best friend. This was like years ago. And it was like the best thing I did because it actually unlocked so many things for me. And I think you gotta go all in with what you feel, with what your gut instinct tells you. Because at the end of the day, if it plays out well, you can say to yourself that, you know what, it played out really well to listen to me. And if it didn't work out, you only have yourself to blame. I think that's the problem. You ask all these opinions to other people, and then if things don't work out, you end up then blaming them that it didn't work out. I'm like, dude, no, like it's on you. It's on you. If it's gonna work out or not, it's your responsibility.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. It's people can often take advice from what other people say and then do it, and then be like, "Oh well, you told me to do that, and it didn't work out." So it's like, well, no, you're in control of your life. It's up to you whether you take that or do that or not.
Yeah.
God, what an experience going through the Sahara Desert, like.
Oh, that was so crazy. I was lost during that time. So that was like a time of my life where I was lost. So my first career was performing arts, and so I started in performing arts when I was really little, like I was 6. My grandmother took me in the theater, and that was in Portugal. And then I continued on in the UK. And then when I went back to Portugal, I continued. And then my biggest dream was to like do acting in New York. And then I managed to get that when I was 20. I just sent out the audition tapes. I mean, we didn't have any money for me to do that. So again, my mom was like, I'm really worried about this because you're sending out these audition tapes. What if you get accepted? Like, you know, but to cut a long story short, like I was just stubborn, and I'm like, I'm just gonna send these audition tapes because I really never thought that I would get accepted because I'm just like this Portuguese girl in Portugal who in New York is gonna like accept me. Like, you know, you really like, this is like far out, you know, and I was 20 at the time. So, you know, and the world is not what it is today at that time. I'm 38. It's a while ago now. It's a while ago now. So a little while ago. So
Yeah.
so then I got accepted, which was like, what? This is like insane. How did I get accepted? Which again, another tribute to, you should just always persevere because you just never know what can happen.
Yeah.
When you think all of your odds are against you, you should just persevere. You just never know. And all the odds were against me. Like yeah. So then I did end up going to New York. I studied it for 2 years, and then my visa finished, and I could not continue living my dream. And I was really living my dream because I was waking up every day, and I was part of the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I was acting every day. I was so happy. And then my visa finished, my money finished, and there was no way that I could continue. So my heart was broken pretty much. It's like what now? And I had to go back to Lisbon, and I was so heartbroken. I didn't know what was my life purpose now. Like, I grew up being little and being obsessed about musicals, and I would watch the 1950s, you know, Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, Marilyn Monroe. Like, my whole life was, I'm going to be a performer, and I'm going to be an actress, even if it takes me my whole life. And then suddenly I didn't know anymore what to do. So I had no idea. It was like, what now? And I was in Portugal, and I didn't feel like I belonged in Portugal. All of my friends, I could not connect because I had lived this amazing life in New York, and now I'm back in Lisbon. It's like, I felt so disconnected. I didn't have friends. I didn't know what was up. I didn't know what was going on. So I was lost for a period of like, I would say, I think it was like 2.5 years where I had no idea of what I wanted to do. And during that time, my grandmother that was living with me, and my mom was still in the UK, you know, my grandmother was like, okay, you just have to go out there and just do something, like just get a job, like so that you meet humans and see people. So, you know, you're out of the house. Just like kicking me out of the house. I was just at home depressed. And so then yeah, I was at home, like under the duvet, and I was just like, what do I do in my life now? Like, what's life?
Yeah.
I was so young, like I was like 23, but I felt like I had lived so much because I moved to the UK when I was 10, and that was a really like traumatic experience. Like, I was super bullied. You know, kids in the UK are mean. It was mean, you know.
Yeah,
It
it's
was like,
tough.
I had to grow up fast. I didn't have friends for 2 years at school. You know, nobody wanted to be friends with me. And then, you know, so it was like this, there was a lot, like growing up was like a lot of like change. And I ended up getting a job at Hard Rock Cafe because I walked into Hard Rock Cafe and I was like, yeah, okay, you know what? This kind of gives me a New York vibe. This could be a good place for me to work. So I ended up being a bartender at Hard Rock. And then I was just bartending and having fun and didn't even, you know, like whatever, I don't know. And then I wanted to travel to the Middle East because I had already been fascinated with the Middle Eastern culture. Just fascinated, not a specific reason, I think, at the time. And I had a crazy gay best friend, and we said to each other, let's try and find the craziest trip we can go on. And back in the day, you would go to travel agencies. So we went to these travel agencies and we were like, we want to go to like the most craziest like places. What do you have? What do you have? And everything was just the normal stuff. And then one day we end up finding this lady and she's like, okay, I know this person in Morocco that does this Sahara outings for like 2-3 months, but this is, you know, this is under the radar, this is under the books, this is all unofficial. And we just looked at each other like, that's the one we want. We're like, how much can we pay? Done. And she was like, okay. And it was that. And then we ended up going for like 2 months. And it was so crazy. And it's definitely not something you'd probably be able to do now because it's super unsafe to do that now, I think. It was just crazy. And anyway, cut a long story short, like, I really believe everybody should get lost at some point in their lives because when you're lost, you should give yourself the time to experience so much, lots of different experiences. So it allows you to work out what you want, what you like. The more experiences you taste, like the more experience you get, the more you learn about yourself. And you know, the Sahara was just like a small part of this time that I was lost. It was in the Sahara that I did decide, okay, I got to go back to the UK. So that was my part 2 of living in the UK because that was like, okay, I got to go back to London and I have to study in London because I'm like, okay, I'm not going to study in Portugal. I'm going to study in London. What am I going to study? I have no idea. I'll figure it out when I get there. But yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. I think being lost, if you embrace it in a way of like, let's just taste as much as I can, it's so rewarding. I always say to everybody, go get lost for a period of time.
Yeah. God, what an amazing time. You know,
that was a crazy time.
And like you said, like, you know, by, you know, pushing out your comfort zone and just doing it and going out there, you know, you grow, don't you?
You grow. Yeah, you have to have the courage to want to get out of the comfort zone. Yeah.
And like you said, you know, by getting lost, you almost kind of find yourself a little bit in some way because you kind of like, you know, the more experience you have, the more you build, you know, people, skills, connections, you know, life experiences. And like you said, like, I remember when I've done bar jobs and things like that. And I remember like at certain times I wasn't happy. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to help people or do something. You know, I was just like, you know, what is it? What is it I want to do? You just, when you don't know, it's not very nice, but you can reflect back on those times and see the experience you've had.
Yeah. And when you don't know, you just go with what you think feels right. So when I went through this time, it was like I started bartending, and that was just like to kill time and to have fun and to get some money and to meet people. So that was like the best time ever. There was like 1 year, that's all we did. We bartended at night, we went to the beach during the day, and it was like the time of our lives. It was like the best job I've ever had in my life. I couldn't even believe I was getting paid to do that. It was like, this is like fun. You know, like I'm getting paid to have fun. And then, you know, the Sahara trip really started clicking things into, you know what, I need to go back and study something. But that's all I knew. Like I have to study something for a short amount of time because I've never been into like studying for a long time. I grew up with a mom who's self-made. So for me, I'd rather get the experience on ground and work my way up and learn, like read books, study people, follow people, like be a sponge rather than the academic way of, you know, but I was like, okay, I need to study something. And then it was really interesting because in Portugal, I still tried to get into multimedia engineering. And I'm like, I failed maths. How could I ever get into like multimedia engineering? And I'm like, what am I on about? So then that obviously didn't work out. I dropped out like 4 weeks after like the course started. And then when I got to London, I'm like, oh, I know I'm going to be a journalist because I love communicating. So I was like, I'll be a journalist. And the world was not what it is today. Today we wake up and we are like, I want to be a social media marketeer, and we've got the word social media. We're talking about 13 to 14, 15 years ago where the world is not what it is today. So
Yeah.
I was already having massive tendencies of the technology world because I would take apart computers and scanners. I was really obsessed about hardware. So I would like that. I was like building sites, and I was like learning Dreamweaver back in the day. And I was like, I don't know if you remember, I don't know what your age is.
I'm 26.
Okay, cool. Yes. Yeah. So I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if this magazine still exists, the PC Guide magazine.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, I would subscribe to PC Guides. I was obsessed about this world. But because the world wasn't what it is today, it didn't click to me early that I was like into the online world and into the social media world. So I tried journalism, I dropped out. I then tried interior design, and when I did and this was in St. Martin's University, University of Arts of London, that one. And it was my interior design teacher, Valerie, that came to me and said, Alex, you suck at this thing, at this interior design thing, like not your thing, but you're really good at like branding, and you're really good at like social media. But at the time the word social media wasn't happening. She was like, you're good at this like online internet thing. And I was just like, cool, okay, like, do I drop out of this course? Is there like because this was like a 1-year diploma, right? So I was like, okay, cool, so where do I sign for that one? Like, okay, cool, like, where do I go? She just looks at me and she's like, oh no, there isn't, because this is still so new, like, this is like new. And I remember looking around, I'm like, so what do I do? Like, what? She's like, well, you can finish the interior design, because this was like halfway. And you know, and I can understand that you're gonna look at the projects in a different light, and that's fine, but at least finish it. And then I think you can go get a lot of internships in agencies, because that's where this world is happening. And as soon as she said that, everything started clicking. And then I'm like, yeah, because I was already massively like on MySpace. I was like loving LinkedIn at the time already. High Five, some of the early platforms.
Is Twitter around?
Yeah, so then and then it clicked, and I'm like, oh, I think I do like this online stuff thing that's going on. And so I really started going into the world of social 13 years ago. So I then just interned in a lot of agencies, and I started finding my way. And if it wasn't for all of these events, when I was lost, I wouldn't have arrived at all the conclusions that I then started arriving.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, when you're in that and it's happening, you don't realize, do you? And then it's crazy how it's like a domino effect, isn't it? Like one situation onto another, and then onto another, onto another.
But you got to be open to it, because a lot of my friends, so I moved back to London with 2 of my best friends, and we had a lot of other friends in London. A lot of my circle, they would judge me, and nobody got it. And they would be like, you're crazy. You just paid to get into a 1-year diploma. Like, when I got the journalism, it was a 3-year course. It was like a bachelor's thing. And I dropped out exactly 3 months after. And a lot of people, my friends, were like, you don't know what you're doing. You should stick to it. You know, stick to through till the end. You've paid for it. So what are you going to do now? And I was just like, I don't like it. No, I don't care if I
Yeah.
wait another year. So you be lost, but be open to know that you have to keep searching for the next experience and for the next thing, because you can be lost and then you could just be like, okay, I'll just take anything, or I'll just won't do nothing. Be lost, but it's almost like, it's like you're going hunting. You're always like looking for the next thing, for the next thing, for the next thing. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I think that's how we should be as people. Like, you know, if you don't know what you're doing, try something, see how that goes. If that doesn't work out, try the next thing, but don't stop, if that makes sense. Just keep
Yeah.
trying things out.
Something is the worst. Yeah.
Because I can relate to what you said, because I went to university and I got a place in, I went back to Nottingham Trent, back to Nottingham where I'm from. And I did a degree in criminology, so like the psychology of criminals.
Wow.
And then I had to retake my mathematics because I got an F in maths. So I had to retake my maths, get a C grade, get that, because it was a conditional offer. And I had limited time to get the maths grade to go to uni.
Yeah.
So I did that, got to uni, and after a couple of months, I was like, I don't like it. and I dropped out, dropped out, came and tried something else, and then found coaching, and yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, like we have to be open to trying new things and being open to change. Like this conversation I was having with this girl just before this chat, there was a moment where I said to her, and she's young, she's 25, you know, like, and she was like, oh, because, you know, I'm worried about what's going to be like in the future when I was like, no, like, this is your now. Now is now. And I really think, like, with everything that's happened in 2020, I think it's really giving us a huge perspective of, let's live more in the now and in the present, and focus on what we are now, this week, next month. And we don't have to have that huge pressure of figuring it all out. I think that adds a huge layer of pressure on people. Like, live in the moment, live in the now. This is what you love doing now. Great. Is it going to be the same next year? Cool. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Like, change should be embraced. Like, we should welcome that as a good thing.
Yeah. No, I massively agree. And I think, like, and it's not like looking at what other people are saying and their perspective, is it? Like, you know, like what you said with what you were doing, you had friends and stuff saying, oh, why are you doing that? And
yeah,
like,
no, they thought it was crazy. They were like, you wasted this money, you're going to waste this time. But I've never cared much for other people's opinions. And I'm very thankful that my mom and my grandma, I think they really contributed for that, in that way. Also because I think my upbringing in the UK was not the best. It really just made me like me, myself, and I then, like, you know, like, I think, you know, when I was bullied and I didn't have friends, I just had to learn to accept it and be okay with, then I'm going to do my own thing. But, you know, I think ultimately it was mom and grandma always kind of, you know, brought me up in a way of, you know, follow your dreams, do what makes you happy, you know, stay true to what you want to do. Really don't give a shit about what others will say. I think that definitely must have come from mom and grandma. I mean, when I was little, we didn't have money for me to go to kindergarten. So I spent a lot of like my first years in the theater because my grandmother was an opera singer. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So I really grew up, like my early years, I grew up with these crazy queer opera singer humans, you know? like queer, crazy, you know? And I would sit on their laps and they would like do my hair and teach me how to do crazy hair and the hairspray, and they would like dress me up in these outfits, and they would tell me these things. They would like, yes, now walk like you're taking over the world and don't give a shit about what people say. You know, there was this very queer, flamboyant personalities that I did grow up with, and my grandmother was one of them for sure too. And I think that must have definitely just left an imprint of like, I really don't, I mean, I have a lot of love and respect for people, but at the end of the day, I just want to do what I want to do. Like,
Yeah. No, I don't blame you, and I think it's good to have that reinforced. And I think it's quite some people have to learn to think that way. I mean, I used to put a lot of attention into what people used to think about what I do, and it took a long time for me to like let go of that. So if you can have that, support instilled and encouragement, isn't it? People
yeah,
just tell you not to.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, I think that's why I think parents need, I think parents, can contribute to a
Yeah.
lot of that. Like mom and
Mm.
dad needs to give a lot of that love, a lot of that comfort. I mean, in that way I had, but like, for example, from my father, I didn't. So,
Yeah.
I can see the two sides of the coin. I can see how in that sense, mom and grandma gave me so much of that. And then how from my father, it was like the extreme opposite. And it
Yeah.
can definitely carry on with you, and it can definitely affect you on, how you feel about yourself, how maybe you're
Mm.
always looking for someone's approval,
Mm.
insecurities, and yeah, things like that.
Yeah. No, I agree, and it's kind of working through that, isn't it? And just like I said, trying to have that positive kind of mindset on it.
Got to work through it. Like,
Yeah. Mm.
I think the worst thing we can do as humans is make something that happened to us in the past become a crutch. Crutch, is that the word? Like, become an obstacle and
Yeah.
become the constant excuse. We are
Mm.
better than that. Like, we are not defined by something that's happened to us when we were younger. We can.
Mm.
It takes a lot of hard work. And by no means I'm saying it's easy. It's huge. It takes a lot of emotional, mental rewiring. It's almost like a reboot of rewiring
Mm.
the things that we feel inside. But I believe we can do it. I'm an
Yeah.
optimist. I'm saying that out of my own experience with what happened with my father. It's taken years and years and years and years and years and years of this constant rebooting, realigning, resetting on, getting rid of the framework he gave me, getting rid
Mm.
of that and creating a new one. But
Yeah.
we have to put in that work.
Mm.
Otherwise, that is going to define us for the rest of our lives. And it's like, that can't make sense.
Mm. No, I completely agree. I think that's 100% true. Um,
And you would know this because from what you've told me, you've had a trauma that you've been working and you've worked to overcome it. So you would 100% know what that is like.
yeah, yeah. You definitely see the flip side to it when you've had something happen and you've been on the other side. And I was bullied at school and things happened to me at school, and then that thing happened around the same time, and then there was things with my stepdad. So it was all at once. And like you said, when you've been in certain places, and if you're not careful, you can kind of take that narrative, do you know what I mean, from that negative
Oh, 100%.
time.
Oh,
So
100%. I've been taking that narrative that my father gave me. I've taken it to every single relationship with every single guy I've had until 8 years ago.
mm, yeah,
Exact blueprint. And it's
yeah,
so, but that's what I think it's fascinating. The patterns are there for us to see. We can clock the patterns, we can clock it, we can see how the framework we see the world is based on something that's happened. And I think that's the first step. If we get that self-awareness to go like, hold up a second, like I'm seeing a pattern here, I'm seeing repetition,
mm,
something is wrong. That's like, I think the first step to the beginning of what do I now need to do to heal and to reset. And then I think that's like the next hardest thing.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
like, okay.
yeah, yeah. Life's an ongoing journey, isn't it? We're all learning and growing and developing, each day, each week, each month, and definitely like, big long process, isn't it?
Yeah.
We never really reach an end mark. We just keep going.
Yeah, we got to keep pushing through, like push through, but we got to want to push through. We got to want to get past the, you know, like I remember there was a moment last December where I did something that I had never done before in the dynamic of being with a guy. And the wanting of becoming better is so big in me that I'm like, I need to become better at this. That want allowed me to push through to do what I had to do.
Yeah.
And you know, like, and then when it happened, it was just, and then I was just like, it's just like everything else. When we just move it to the next side, it's like that saying, like, oh, it wasn't that painful, right? It's the idea of it that's painful. And it's like, oh, I was, yeah, oh my God. Okay, only took me 10 years to get here, but fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I know. I agree. I think, you know, relationships like that, you know, like you kind of has to be that mutual feel, doesn't it? Because people can challenge you, and then you're going to have to become better in certain areas. You know, that person might push you to do that, and then if you're doing that, then that person should be doing that, and it's that kind of mutual thing, isn't it? That's something that I've definitely learned as well. Are you okay for time, by the way?
Yeah, I think I can do like maybe 5-7 more minutes.
Yeah, of course. I was gonna say, like, when I saw one of your videos, you did a live the other day, last week, and you had like 800 like post-it notes behind you. I was like, that's
they're over there.
yeah.
Oh, I have so many more.
It's such a probably good way to organize, you know, where you're at with things.
Actually, these post-its are all my students. So I do a lot of events like master classes, boot camps.
Yeah.
And I have this ritual where at the end of the event, I get everybody to pick up a post-it and just write their kind of like awe moment, you know, like what is the one thing that you are stuck with the most. And for the past 4 years, I've been doing so many events. I have these huge bags full of post-its because I collect them, like I save them. And so the ones that are there are from students that have come and done my short courses here in my house. So those are all little notes from like people that you could like read. But myself, yeah, like this one here definitely is my own. I'm a huge fan of post-its because I think it's a very good design thinking tool. You know, it allows you to, you know, do this, which is moving things around. You can have the flexibility of moving things. So for me, for the way that I operate, it helps me to just kind of like put something up, take something down, move something around, and yeah, I find them as they're super like helpful, like little tool.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like you said, with ideas as well, it's good to get it out. You know, if we have it in our head, we might forget it. If you can write it down, put it on a post-it note, then it's quite good.
Visualizing things can be really helpful for some people. Just seeing them in front of them mapped out can really, really help to become more actionable.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it. Everyone's got their own way of working, haven't they? But I think that's a really great way to do it. Like, do you have any like favorite books at all that you read, or any that you read at all?
Yeah, I do. One of my favorite books that I've been reading for the past couple of 2 years. Let me grab it. It's here. I do love this book by, I don't know if you're familiar, by Ray Dalio, Principles.
That's massive.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, Ray Dalio is an amazing, extraordinary businessman. And he's one of the most successful like entrepreneurs in the US. He started back in the 50s. And so he wrote a book called Principles, which is all of his principles that he's collected over the years. And so the book, you can read it as a manual. You can just even like open any page and actually just start reading from whatever that that section is. But it's massively in massive detail on how he ran his companies, how he ran his businesses, and all of the learnings that you can really, really, really like get from him. So I love this one. It's been with me for the past 2 years, and I've just been reading it slowly.
Yeah.
And he has on his Instagram, he has like little quotes, excerpts from the book on his Instagram. I think it's Gary V's agency that are doing his social media. I think so.
Yeah.
And there's an interview with them together, I think, that you can see. Yeah, I really love this one. And I haven't been reading anything new. I mean, I read a lot online, like I read a lot of blogs and things like that. But I think this is the book that I've loved the most in the past 2 years, I want to say. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'd have to definitely check it out.
Yeah, I think you would really like it. It's really awesome. You can read it at your own. Like it's got like awesome like little sort of like.
Oh, nice. Like diagrams and things.
Yeah, it's super like interesting. Like, yeah, I think you would like it.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely check it out. I've got, wow, what's that say? The Hero's Journey.
The Hero's Journey. So it's like call to adventure, crossing the threshold, the road of trial, abyss, metamorphosis, the ultimate boon, returning the boon. It's really like, this guy is huge. Like, it's really, I think, check it out.
Yeah, definitely. I'll add it to my Amazon basket.
Okay.
I've got so many books I need to read. It's crazy. I end up reading one, and I'm like, I'm going to buy another one. Oh, that one looks good. I'm going to get that one. And then I'm like, oh no, what have I done?
So what are you reading now?
I read recently Everything is Figure Outable by Marie Forleo. She's a coach.
Yes.
I read Epictetus, who's a Roman philosopher.
Okay.
It's called Manual for Living. It talks about different ways of thinking and things like that, like philosophy.
Okay.
But I'm reading Gary V's Crush It at the minute.
Oh God, I read all that years ago. Yeah, of course, Gary's books. I mean, that's like a staple. They're all there.
Yeah.
They're epic.
Yeah. They're quite.
Thin one?
The thin one, the black and green. Yeah, that one's quite good. And then I've got because my granddad's side are Native American, so I bought a book based on a tribe in the native times called Shadow of the Moon, I think it's called.
Okay.
And it's about all the stuff the Native Americans went through in the West, so that'll be quite interesting to read. But you learn so much from reading, don't you? I think it's really important.
You do. I don't read as much anymore as I used to. The reading I do is not book reading anymore. It's more a lot like like blogs or articles, things like that. I'm interested in. I really haven't read a book from start to finish in a long time. I like this type of style. Like maybe read like a chapter and then I'll like put it down. But even that I haven't done in a little while actually. Maybe soon.
Yeah. When you have time.
Or podcasts. Like I love podcasts. I definitely I'm loving podcasts more than reading books.
Yeah.
Like how I can do other things.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's like you can do something, you can listen to it, and then you can do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
But no, like, Alexandra, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks for having me inside your car.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's the quietest place at the minute because I've got dogs and everything. So, but no, you're very, very welcome, and it's been really great talking to you. And I'll post it and I'll promote what you're doing as well with it and everything.
Screenshot of us here. Hold on.
Yeah, of course. My hair's a bit of a mess.
You look fine. You look cool. Yay. I'm glad we made this happen.
Yeah. No, same.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. But no, have a beautiful day, and all the best, and stay in touch and everything.
Yeah, we stay in touch over on Instagram, and we stay
Yeah, yeah.
connected.
Oh, sorry. And
Yeah.
where can people find you on social media? Sorry.
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram at house_of_social. They can go to my website, www.houseofsocial.com. They can check out my free courses and my consultancy. I also have a YouTube channel, TikTok, but I guess most of the fun happens on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely check Alexandra out.
Thank you. Oh,
Yeah,
thanks, Adam.
you're welcome. You take care.
Ciao. Have
Yeah,
an
take
amazing
care.
day.
You too.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye. Bye.